Getting them started on the main part of the lesson is very similar to the lesson introduction, really. If it goes well, it gives you a bit of a chance to draw breath, get organised and help some of those that need a bit more support. The problem is, they all want to ask me questions and that stops us getting on. I try not to interfere too much in what they're doing, so they shouldn't feel under too much pressure, and they have time to work things out for themselves. The most important thing about pupil groupings is to make sure the children are confident in helping each other.
OK, APT, is that clear? I'll leave that on the board for you so that you can refer to it. I'd like you to investigate as many shapes as possible in the time. Please try to work as quietly as you can, but I want you to discuss your ideas, that's very important. But please, just try to keep the noise down as much as possible, so as not to disturb others around you. Right, off you go. I'll be here if you need me.
How long have we got, please, miss?
Oh, good Lord, is that the time? Well, really, I ought to give you about 10 minutes. But it isn't a race.
Miss?
Yes, Jason.
What happens if we finish it sooner?
Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to think of something else to do. But you mustn't worry if you don't finish.
Don't we get any class points, miss?
Well, perhaps. Anyway, you can't finish until you've started, can you?
I wonder what Miss was going on about. I haven't really been listening for a while. Miss doesn't seem to mind what we do. I like this class because I'm able to sit near my friends, but I don't think I'm learning very much.
Kath is very enthusiastic about her subject, but in this part of the lesson, she seemed to have got a little carried away. Many seemed unable to follow her route through the diagram on the board and lost concentration. But it was difficult for Kath to notice that she no longer had their attention, as she had her back to the pupils throughout her explanation. At the end of the explanation, Kath faced the class and asked if pupils were clear. Instead of checking to see if this was the case, Kath took the absence of a response to mean that they were okay and moved swiftly on, even though many pupils were not attending. Kath used the clear signal to gain the class's attention, but then continued immediately with instruction to the class, talking over the top of the pupils, who continued to chat to each other. She did not pause to check whether pupils were listening. During her instructions, Matthew was talking to Simon, while Sophie was trying to attract his attention. Matthew turned round to show the girls something amusing on his whiteboard, and Victoria and Kirsty were openly writing a note which they passed to Matthew to pass on. Kath seemed to have run out of time for the main task, and this caused her to lose confidence. Pupils' questions prompted her about things that she should have made clear from the outset. For instance,
how long have we got, please, miss?
Kath seemed surprised about the amount of time that remained. Kath then responded to a number of other clarifying questions.
But it isn't a race.
Miss?
Yes, Jason.
What happens if we finish it sooner?
Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to think of something else to do. But you mustn't worry if you don't finish.
Don't we get any class points, miss?
Well, perhaps. Anyway, you can't finish until you've started, can you?
Once pupils were working independently, Kath picked up her own work and informed pupils that she was there if they needed help.
OK, APT, is that clear? I'll leave that on the board for you so that you can refer to it. I'd like you to investigate as many shapes as possible.
There's a lot to get through in the maths curriculum, and Kath is very enthusiastic about her subject. Her lesson plans are detailed and show a clear structure, but this does not translate into her classroom practice. In this lesson, Kath got carried away with the mathematical possibilities of her diagram and consequently ran over time. Kath needs to stick to the timings she's allocated to different parts of the lesson. She seemed surprised that the plan she wrote went awry, but rather than making the necessary adjustments to get the lesson back on track, she became increasingly flustered and rushed through the instructions without pausing to check pupils' understanding. Because Kath often appears disorganised and indecisive, pupils don't always respond to her as the leader in the classroom. Some pupils take her distraction as an opportunity to move off task, chatting, passing notes, moving around the classroom. This low-level disruption often goes unchecked, and pupils who try to follow instructions and complete the task find it difficult to concentrate. It's important that Kath is clear about the role model she wants to present to the class in terms of leading pupils' learning and good planning, organisation and timekeeping. For example, when addressing the class or delivering instructions, Kath needs to develop a more composed manner. She could try to move out from behind her desk and face the class. She needs to practice giving clear, unambiguous instructions, pausing both to aid the class's understanding and to give herself time to think about what she's going to say before she begins. She could develop a better scanning technique to include all members of the class and to ensure that she has everyone's attention before speaking. It's clear that the pupils feel very at ease in Kath's lessons.
How long have we got, please, miss?
Oh, good Lord, is that the time?
They are able to ask clarifying questions when they don't understand, and they're not afraid of being criticised. They find Kath accessible because she always responds to their questions, though this can sometimes cause Kath problems if the lesson loses its focus. However, Kath seemed to be thrown by their questions.
Don't get any class pints, miss.
Well, perhaps. Anyway, you can't finish until you've started, can you?
She could preempt many such questions by establishing a series of routines. For example, for pupils who complete a task early, for gaining the teacher's attention, or for dealing with missing or broken equipment, and minimise the amount of explanation and repetition she does. It seems to me that too many pupils ask about things they should know already, or that Kath should have explained in the introduction to the task.
How long have we got, please, miss?
What happens if we finish it sooner? Don't get any class pints, miss.
She needs to decide what everyone needs to know before they start the task. Make a note to herself if she needs to, and make sure that everyone understands. I think I'll ask Tina to show Kath how she sets up and establishes her routines. Because Kath is disorganised, she's always trying to catch up. She sometimes uses time when pupils are working independently to draw breath, perhaps to tackle her marking. Of course, she will always respond to pupils' difficulties if they indicate they need help, but I feel this is an inefficient use of valuable teaching time, which could be better spent in planned, focused teaching with small groups or individual pupils.
I think I understand why Kath might be setting her expectations in the way she does. She clearly expects the class to work independently, to be self-motivated, to complete tasks well and to engage with her teaching. However, in her keenness to be respectful of the pupils, she seems to be afraid of taking a more assertive approach and giving the specific instructions that many pupils need.
OK, APT, is that clear?
It is difficult for pupils to progress smoothly into a task if they are unclear about what they should do. Although Kath gave the class a clear signal that she was about to address them, when she spoke to the class, she ran a series of instructions and information together, without pausing and checking that she had pupils' attention. Kath sometimes changes her mind in the middle of an instruction, and this can be confusing. Her instructions seem to have two parts. The first part is often very clear. I need you to do this. She then seems to add a second part that confuses what she has just said.
Please, try to work as quietly as you can, but I want you to discuss your ideas. That's very important. Lord, is that the time? Well, really, I ought to give you about 10 minutes. But it isn't a race.
In each case, Kath seemed to lose confidence in her first statement, and she qualifies it with a but. I understand that Kath doesn't want pupils to feel pressured, and she may see her approach as building good relationships with pupils, protecting them from failure and giving them more choice and independence. But in fact, her expectations of pupils' achievement in the lesson appear to be low, and this, combined with her imprecise instructions, means that many pupils are failing to gain access to the task set because there is a lack of urgency, purpose and clarity about what they should be doing. I wonder how many pupils succeeded in completing the task and how much learning took place. By setting low expectations of what pupils should achieve in lessons, Kath is setting up greater pressure for them in the future. Pupils do need to be given the big picture. They need to know what is to be covered and understood by the end of the topic, and how, as individuals and as a class, they will be judged to have succeeded. There will be challenges for pupils along the way, but with the support of the teacher and each other, they will succeed.